Old ones.
These are old.
They work, but they're old. One of them is a wired one is wireless, but we don't use them.
I need the wireless stick. Wireless. There is behind that rock wall. Look, it's good meeting you. I think people like to hear the
And it's the military on the planet. I think it's
Absolutely. This is a great program. I'm glad we got so many people here.
I'm going to go ahead and sit down. This is my fast day. Dr. Tom, I'm going to wait my half hour. So I can make water.
Well, I started doing this when I started there. Charlie was I can't eat anything. I got started. And so it's like, yeah, I've got lentil soup back at work waiting for me when I get done.
I think my start to it. I kind of eat I'm not hardcore. It's a healthy way to eat.
It definitely is, you know. I mean, we eat just like salmon and a whole bunch of vegetables. Have a potato or rice or and it's good. It's a starting this week.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're here.
All fast food.
Not too bad. How's your dad? Better. Beat the pneumonia. Excellent. So I came home a couple days later. Scared.
Yeah. How's his recovery? And you got down to see him and all?
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
Yep. All right. Get on your turkey and all? All right.
Yeah. So now we got company turkeys. Company turkeys coming in. My aunt's the one that did the turkey, so I was
Then he gave everybody a hand.
Hello and welcome to the greatest Rotary Club in the universe. Right. We have a great meeting planned today. We have Lieutenant, am I correct?
Yes.
Lieutenant Fergus Clark here from the Naval Air Station Woolley. So that's really special. We're happy to have you and welcome. We have other guests as well, and we'll get to those. To start off, let's have an invocation. Rick Lemley.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we'd like to give thanks to you for allowing us to have a great nation. We thank gentlemen like Lieutenant Clark and the men and women who protect our great nation. We give thanks to you for the bounty that we had last week and in our Thanksgiving with our families and friends. And as we head into the holiday season, we give thanks to you for Jesus Christ, those that we hope to serve, and keep in mind those that are less fortunate than ourselves as Rotarians and such, to give to those as we can. In your name we pray, amen.
Flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
David Bricka, we have a song.
We sure do. Let's keep it patriotic and sing My Country 'Tis of Thee. My
country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
All right. Thank you. You may be seated. Oh, we got a 4-way test. I'm just making sure you're okay. It's the truth.
It is fair to all concerned. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
You're watching the phone and not
A good thing I brought money today. I can settle that coming. All right. We have visiting Rotarians. Let's see, who's our sergeant?
I am.
Okay, here. All right. I will introduce our guest here. We have Ashley Richards here from New Brunswick, Maine. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Actually, it's Brunswick, Maine.
Oh,
The home of the former Brunswick Naval Air Station, by the way. And anyhow, it's great to be here. I just moved here in July from Maine. I'm very excited. This is my first Rotary meeting here, serving as president in Brunswick. But I'll tell you, it's just great to be here with all this enthusiasm. And I'm looking, hopefully I'll be accepted. We'll see. But I look forward to it. Thank you.
any other visiting Rotarians? How about guests of Rotarians? Boy, look at all the people in this room that are not anyone. They're all Rotarians. What a great day for Rotary.
We do have some spouses here.
We do have some anniversaries, right? All right, let's go straight into that. Who's Marnie? Marnie Fox is going to lead us through anniversaries.
And Wendy.
And Wendy Sikora, our most lovely florist.
Okay, we've got some anniversaries today, and the first is Carl Garrison.
Says you both get to do it.
Yeah, you get two.
I do a lot of talking, so I'm going to let Julia tell about our Spartan days.
You can take a lead on that, Carl. Okay, good evening, first and I already said everything I wanted to say on Facebook.
We start making stuff up, that's what we're all.
Okay, I miss it, but maybe it's a good thing. When I don't hear what you say, sometimes. Makes for a better marriage. It's good to be married. It's good to be actually truly married. Many of you know that this is my third time. My father-in-law says third time in Sherman. He told me that before the wedding. He told me that on the wedding, and he keeps repeating it every time I talk to him. So it must be true. And I had 2 practice marriages. It was not very much fun. And now finally, I feel like I am married and we are on a mission. And it's absolutely wonderful. And those of you who haven't gotten there yet, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep trying.
Okay, then we have Steve Massey and
my lovely wife Jan with me today, of 46 years married this year, month, so I'll pass it on. Well, we celebrate our anniversary the same day as Steve and Jan, but May 51 years, much to everybody's surprise. And, we celebrated our anniversary with broadcasting. We did a lightning cruise from Montreal to New York. Had a great time.
I'm not going to explain that whole thing. So, anyway, my wife couldn't make it because I forgot to ask her, so. But we did have a great trip on the Viking cruise, so she said, "Well, 30 years, can you believe that? Somebody's been with me for 30 years. How about that?" Anyway, thank you. All right, that's it. Okay, any board reports or committee reports? I think Daryl can tell us a little bit about our audio-visual, if you would.
Sure. We're in the process of updating a lot of things, getting the Wi-Fi signal stronger from Ellen's office over in the building next door, and making some more connections up front here. So we're hopefully going to get that done next week.
And we're replacing that machine, right?
Well, that's right, we are going to do that as well. Yes.
Yeah, so we've had, historically a lot of hiccups on the audio-visual, and we're really trying to get those behind us. All right, so thank you for Daryl and Adrian and Julia and whoever's working on that. Thank you all. It's really helping us. Becky, we have a Christmas party. I bet that's what you want to tell us about.
I do want to tell you that and more. December 14th, that's going to be Friday night, right? December 14th at 6 o'clock, we're going to have our Christmas party. Chuck and Connie has generously donated Christmas trees, so if you're on the Christmas party committee and you want to help out, we're going to have a little decorating party on the 4th. That's this coming Tuesday, to get that tree decorated and get the room decorated. So Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we're going to meet over at Magnolia Hall and put up the Christmas tree.
Daryl, can I throw to that? On the card you received in the mail, it's my bad. I changed the date. I didn't change the day. It says Saturday the 14th. So on your flyer that you got in the mail, change that to Friday the 14th, not Saturday the 14th. My apologies.
No worries, Rick. Thank you for doing that. And we have a sign-up sheet, so we need to know how many people are coming to the Christmas party. We're going to send that around, and if you haven't signed up, please sign up.
I know it's early, but we've started work on the auction, and I sent out an email to, I don't know, Carl gave us the biggest committee of all time, I think there's 36 people on it. But unfortunately, I only got responses back from about 4. So whoever has it, just respond back and tell me what you'd like to do. Or if you're interested in working on the auction, please email me and we'll find you a spot. Thanks.
On your tables, I put a flyer called The Giving Tree, and we have this down at the Chamber of Commerce for the food banks. There are families that have signed up to receive gifts, and when you read some of the requests, they really tug at your heart. Like when a 5-year-old asks for a bed, and we have some people who, want a bicycle, and then most of them want clothing and, shoes and socks, and I'm like, it just tugs at your heart. So come down, pick up a name, bring something back, put it under the tree with the name on it, and we'll make sure they get to the food bank by the 20th so that these children will have a Christmas. So please take flyers, share them with people, and come by and pick up a name. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Good for it doesn't make a big difference to us, but it makes a great big difference to the people getting it, that's for sure. All right, Mark Nielsen, are you here? I think he is. He's working on nominations. We have one board slot to fill that he's working on, and maybe filled by now, but I haven't heard for sure. And we will be hopefully voting on a slate of officers next week. If you feel like you've been left out and you want to be president of this club, or you want to be a board member, make sure that you get a hold of me after this meeting, because time is running thin for anybody who is eager and wants to get involved. All right? Any other announcements? Bill McCann.
There will be a crystal ball committee meeting after the next meeting next week.
Okay. Can you put it up there at some point today? Just to remind us?
They wouldn't be able to read my writing, but maybe somebody could.
Maybe you could have Jeff do it. All right, any other announcements?
Yeah, everybody keep bringing in your hotel's goods, paraphernalia.
That's just wrong, sorry. Yeah, you know what I mean, toiletries and all that. Connie and I are gonna be heading to California in a couple of weeks, hitting a few hotels and filtering the crap out of them as well too, so, yeah. The food bank is just absolutely loving it, so thank you very much, guys.
I suppose we could go to the store and just buy some shampoo too. It'd be okay to do that.
That's welcome to.
Careful taking that paraphernalia across state lines.
All right. Do we have a raffle?
We do. Charge you a couple bucks for that, okay? Next up, we have, I think the AP basketball poll just came out. Number one in the nation is? Gonzaga. Okay, so if you have, is that the first time they've ever been number one? Or? No? All right, if you are a graduate of Gonzaga, or you've had a child or a nephew or a niece that is a graduate of Gonzaga, it's $1. Just $1, John, for all those nieces and nephews. And who won the Apple Cup this year? We don't know. Okay. Huskies all can pay $1 for that. And next up, we're going to do Happy Dollars. Happy Dollars.
Yeah.
Avery, you got Happy Dollars?
I had a happy 20. Great work party a week and a half ago, so thanks to everybody who showed up. Really a sign of our Rotary Club when you get that many people out there having that much fun. Mike, thank you for coordinating that whole thing. The rest of the 20 is about 2 days. Our team is heading off to Uganda. So the place is total chaos. We just had 150 phones delivered this morning from up in Bellingham. We got things being shipped in from all over the place. We had a couple vendors that sent us probably $20,000 worth of supplies and equipment. This club has also contributed, so we have a lot of medical equipment. There's about 20, 50-pound bags sitting there that are going to be going on the plane come Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully we'll be back in a couple weeks and have some pictures and share with you. We're going to meet with about 5 or 6 Rotary clubs in Uganda. So we just grabbed a few more of our flags, so they're going to have a little bit of the greatest Rotary club in the universe left with them, and we'll be bringing back their flags, and maybe at some point in time we can do a program on how that went here.
I've got a happy $10. Last Saturday evening, my son Evan and his wife Tracy blessed us with our second grandson, our fourth grandchild. He is a clone of his older brother. It's phenomenal how close they look. And if the size of his feet is any indication, he's going to be the bigger, younger brother. His feet are 3.5 inches long. But yeah, everyone's doing great. He's a gorgeous kid.
I'm super happy. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, my daughter's going to be in the Nutcracker at McIntyre Hall with David Bricka. For those of you who don't know, my daughter's immensely talented, like her mother. And she's going to be in all 3 acts this year, which is super exciting. So there's no act where I'll just be like totally bored, you know, as I normally am, which is not on stage. And David has informed me that she's absolutely gorgeous, so if you don't have tickets yet, I do recommend that you do. She's 14, and as much as I struggle with her, as soon as she puts her pointe shoes on, I just absolutely can't get mad at her anymore.
This is my last $10 today, so all of it goes to.
I think it's my last $10.
You didn't have to disclose that. Anyway, so I'm super thrilled about the trip to Uganda. I admire you guys for doing that. So just absolutely fabulous. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Avery, all your team. It's a great effort, and it's so timely. It's always timely. And what a clever way with the cell phones. We never knew about that. Thank you. That's one. Another one, well, the same, I guess, Avery's the work party. This is probably the most fun my husband had at a work party. He was driving around on that quad. Finally, it was justified. It's been sitting in the garage for God knows how long, taking so much space. And now, okay, we're going in the woods, and it's a work party. Well, I guess, it's really stood to it. It's me, work party. So, party he did. So, and my little note there, we're back to line dancing in Burlington and at the Recreation Center. As some of you know, we have a history of dancing because I'm using the anniversary piece.
Anniversaries are over.
No, anniversary piece. So Carl actually wooed me by dedicatedly driving to Canada for dance classes, for salsa dance classes for a year to get me over on this side of the border. I was always impressed with that. And we've been so busy for the last few years, and this half a year, and we're finally back in the groove, and we've been back for 2 times now. And it's so much fun, so come join us if you like line dancing. You don't have to, but if you like it, we'll be happy to have you.
And that's Tuesday at what time?
Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and Kim, ever forget her last name?
Where at?
Kim Hargrove.
Right. So she's doing both the Grange and the line dancing.
But the line dancing is at the Burlington Senior Center, right? Did you say 7? It's 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
And she's a really good instructor. She's been doing it since 1983.
So I have a quick 20 happy bucks. I'm very happy that my brother Mike is in this club. Does anybody else have a brother? Because that's okay. So Mike asked Travis, what should Travis was looking for some speakers in March. Mike said, hey, my nephew Aaron is raising horses, that'd be a great speaker. And so how do I get a hold of him? Call John. Why is it my responsibility to give him the number to a nephew? It's not my responsibility. Do your own job.
Got a couple of happy bucks here. Hope everyone had an enjoyable Thanksgiving, was able to participate with scores of volunteers. We had 60 volunteers serving over 400 people at Helping Hands Food Bank. This is the first time they've hosted it was the 44th annual Cedar Woolley Community Thanksgiving Dinner. And we had people do Meals on Wheels at the beginning, and folks came and dined, and no one left hungry, and extras were going out the door as well. Thank you again for your continued support for Helping Hands and for the community dinner. And then secondly, if you're not at the Nutcracker, please come down on Saturday and participate with Woolleyville. And I hear there's a Grinch.
I heard it.
A big Grinch.
The only one, Mr. Grinch, and that will be me. So please, let's take lots of photographs and build up a great day for Cedar Woolley and show our community spirit. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is actually an unhappy $10, and it's unhappy because I didn't have a 1 or a 5, and I planned wrong. only had 20. Anyway, I'm going to recycle again starting today. So leave your water bottles on the table. See, they're all going to pay $10 to say that, but anyway, I did.
I understand your grandmother scored the most points. Does the girls beat Mount Vernon the other night too? Okay, well that's part of the $10, so that's good.
So I've got a happy $10 for a couple of things. First of all, congratulations to the Huskies on the Apple Cup win. Brock and I have been doing this back for quite a few years, what, 20-some years? Oh, that's well, okay. Quite a few. It seems like a lot. So, but the big picture of all that is everyone was okay in the bus that was traveling over to the Apple Cup. One of our employees, Daniela Rodriguez, who was a McIntyre Scholarship winner, saxophone player, member of the band, who spent many Decembers here playing, was on the bus, and we just found out that her CAT scan came back okay, and she's a little banged up. She came in the other day, and we were all just thrilled to see her. It was a scary night, so that's really cool. And what was really cool is I'm on a few coup fan sites, and there's a surprise. And that night, all the people over in Eastern Washington were rallying to get food and drink to these kids, and the drivers and all the people involved in the Husky Marching Band. And I think that's what it's all about. And then also for Coup Nation, back in January, we were all saddened by the tragic death of Tyler Walensky, and from that point to where we are now, it's really been a magical year because Tyler's memory has been honored by the Cougs, and Coup Nation with the number 3 on the flag, and it's really pretty cool. Then there's the Nutcracker, which I'm on the next slide. Yeah. So the Nutcracker, this is the 8th year that Michael and I have been in the Nutcracker as the Bumbling Butlers. So we watch these little kids like Libby Layton grow up and go from being the mice and soldiers to being these beautiful ballerinas on point shoes, and I just marvel at how talented they are, the great skills that they have. It is such a joyful experience to see these little kids on stage performing for the very first time. It takes me back to Jack and Shirley McIntyre in our Rotary Club that was the first Rotary Club in the Valley to donate $100,000 to McIntyre Hall. We are blessed to have a state-of-the-art performing arts facility here at Skagit Valley, and I just am so delighted and looking forward to being there for the next weekend. So come see my hair. It's going to be great.
You forgot to mention though that the Cougar Band played the Husky Fight song as well, right? When I asked you if you were going to do that for the song, you gave me a sign, said no.
So I've had happy 20. Last night was the Champions of Diversity Scholarship program last night at McIntyre Hall. So it's a multi-faceted event facility over there. We had about 15 of our students earn thousands of dollars of scholarships last night for college and higher ed. So I'm happy about that.
Anybody else? Julia gets one more shot. You got Paula too. You found some more money?
I found another $1, and I forgot something, and I'm super excited about it. But this upcoming chamber meeting on Wednesday, December the 5th. I will actually be talking at the chamber about some principles of investing and also winter holidays in Russia. So it will be a colorful presentation. I'm very excited about it.
When is it?
Noon luncheon meeting.
11:30.
11:30. I'm sorry. It's good that I know. Otherwise, I would have chosen at 12.
Thank you, Yulia.
I just wanted to mention that I was very, very pleased with the way that our town comes together to decorate downtown. It looks beautiful. Joanne Lazaron actually spent part of her Thanksgiving Day doing this, and she and Tom were down there hanging up things on Thanksgiving Day, and she has just been amazing. I don't know what we're going to do without her when she retires, but we'll see. We'll get through it, won't we? And of course, Nathan and the whole group of Snelson guys that come down and put up the tree. Thank you so much. The other thing that I'd like to mention there too is the small shop small day went really well for my merchants. I was pleased to walk about and find everybody smiling and saying they were having a great sales day. So that was nice. But you have opportunities to still shop downtown, and please remember that these merchants support us everywhere throughout the community all year long. So support them too. Thank you.
Steve likes one of the money. I'd like to bring Bert. Oh, it's time for early leavers, but boy, you don't want to miss this one. So if you gotta go, now's the time. Then Bruce, maybe you could make your way up, and then you'll be introducing our speaker here in a minute.
Well, in true Mike Crawford fashion, I'm going to say, President Carl and fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Lieutenant Fergus Clark is a pilot for an EA-18G jet. He has 14 years of service deployed in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom and Operation Inherent Resolve. He's an Iraq and Syria combat vet. So without much further ado, I'm going to introduce the guy that has the coolest job in the world. We have the United States military is the most powerful military on the planet, and he flies a jet. He's the pilot of a jet that goes over 1,000 miles per hour, and he gets to fight. So that's cool. So, Lieutenant Fergus Clark, welcome. Give him a hand.
Thanks, Bruce, for the introduction. As Bruce said, my name is Fergus Clark. I'm a Growler pilot here at the station of Woolley. I'm also a weapons tactics instructor. Many of you guys have seen the movie Top Gun. That's the Navy's weapons school. I'm a recent graduate of that beginning of the year. So my journey started back in 2003 when I enlisted as a young airman. I was an avionics electronics technician, and I was stationed up here in Whidbey Island all those years ago, which is kind of fun to be back in the place where this all began. I worked on EP-3 Ares. That's a reconnaissance multi-engine large aircraft that's stationed here locally. I spent 4 years repairing the avionics on that aircraft. After about 4 years of active duty service, I realized that as much as I enjoyed fixing aircraft, I would much prefer to fly. And so I decided it was time to make a career move and get out of active duty, since I've been turned down for 3 officer commission programs, and you need to be an officer to fly for the military. So I decided to get out, and I went to college on my own. I went to Embry-Riddle University down in Daytona Beach, Florida. A great part of the world, awesome flying. The weather's beautiful almost year-round. And that's where I actually started my flying career. So I started off in a little Cessna 172s, Diamond Twin Stars, and little Huskies, and a little aircraft like that. Really enjoyed my time flying those. They're great aircraft, and I have a lot of fun memories doing so. I commissioned from Embry-Riddle, going through the Reserve Officer Training Corps in 2011 in December, and that's where my career to get to where I am now started. So shortly after commissioning, they send you through a 6 weeks ground school in Pensacola, Florida. It's very academic based, where they teach you all about the principles of aviation, weather, all those kinds of things, as well as some survival training before they send you over to go fly the T6 Texan, also stationed out of Pensacola. So T6 Texan, 2-seat aircraft, 1,100 shaft horsepower, very similar to the P-51 performance, but with modern avionics and electronic trim. Great aircraft. They teach you everything from fundamental flying to instrument flying, aerobatics, formation flying, the works. It's about a 6 to 8 month program to get through the primary flight training is what they call it. And after you get done with that, they'll send you, depending on what you select. I was fortunate enough to get selected to go jets, so they'll send you to Meridian, Mississippi, or Kingsville, Texas, where you'll get to fly the T-45 Texan. The T-45 Goshawk. So once you get into T-45 land, before you go there, they send you to the centrifuge. If you've ever seen the movies where they spin you around a room and see if you can pass out, that's true. They really do that to you. The top of that was the trainer that I used in Lemoore prior to going into Meridian to see how much G's they can put you under and how much they can torture you for a day. So it's quite the experience. They teach you all kinds of body positions and ways to manage the high G forces that are associated with flying a tactical jet. And then you're off to Meridian, where you kind of start from the beginning again. You're learning just how to fly the jet. The T-45 is a fun little trainer. It's difficult to fly. It's very unstable. You actually start off in the back seat underneath this big canopy bag where you can't see anything outside the jet, and they put you on instruments and they just kind of put you through the ringer. I think it's more of a haze fest than actual good training. It makes you feel sick really good. You have no idea where you are in space and time, but it's good training nonetheless. Once you get through the basics or intermediates of T-45s, you've got to get into the advanced training. So we'll go down to El Sedro. You'll drop little Mark 75, 50-pound little blue bombs, we call them. It's pretty much a metal shell with a shotgun cartridge in the front of it that makes a lot of smoke when it explodes. So you'll drop bombs on targets down there. You'll do formation flying. You'll run air intercepts and kind of get all the basic foundations at a non-classified level before you move on to the jet that you're going to fly out in the fleet. So after about a year of doing that, your final event in T-45 is you get to go to the boat and you get your first traps as a carrier aviator. That's another experience in itself. The top right is a photo of me getting my first trap ever on board a U.S. aircraft carrier. That was the USS Carl Vinson. So go out there, you'll do daytime only, 10 traps, and hopefully you're good enough to qualify, and then you get moved on to your next duty station, which for me was back up here in NAS Woolley Island. So you'll come up to the squadron I'm actually at right now. I'm an instructor there now, but as back then I was a student, where you learn how to fly the E-18G Growler, and you learn all the tactics that are involved with it. It takes about, the advertised a year, it's more like 12 to 16 months. It took me about a year and a half to get through that pipeline. So when it's all said and done, from when the time you commission to the time that you are in the fleet, you're ready to go out and execute combat missions, it's about 3 years of training to get to that point. The Growler, which I'm sure you guys will see flying overhead daily around here, we're the loud ones that fly close together in all kinds of bad weather. It's a multi-role fighter. Our predominant mission is suppression of enemy air defenses. So our job is to go out there and support strike fighters and air platforms against enemy radars and SAM systems. So our primary ordnance that we carry on board is the Q99 weapons jamming pod. So kinetics is not our primary, non-kinetics is our primary mission set. And our goal is to get the guys carrying the bombs into deep in enemy territory without being detected and not being shot down. We do carry ordnance. We carry AMRAAM, which is an M120 air-to-air missile, and then we carry HARM, which is a high-speed anti-radiation missile, which is an air-to-ground missile that we use to take out enemy SAMs as well. As far as the stuff that we get to do around here, this is some of the best flying in the country, particularly on a nice summer day. The low-level flying through the Cascades is by far some of the best flying I've ever done. On the rare occasion when the weather cooperates, there's an entry point that's just here in Sedro, Woolley, where we'll hit that 500 feet, 500 plus knots, so about 600 miles an hour, and we'll rip it through the mountains down low. So 500 feet from the floor, but we're down in the valley, so as you can see, there's 8,000 foot peaks all around us. It's pretty fun. Once we get up here as well, we'll then go carrier qualifiers, one of the last steps we'll do again. This time we do both day and night certification at the boat. I do not know why we fly around the boat at night. It's a stupid idea. We're the only people in the world that do it, but it's, well. And there's the boat. Aviators first, that's the USS Enterprise. USS, I spent a year of my life on that boat. That's the Dwight D. Eisenhower, CVN 69. I've also deployed on the Bush as well as the Carl Vinson. You'll hear us aviators refer to it as the boats. It's a awfully large ship, but it's a tiny airport. The landing area on it is about the size of a football field. So when we're trying to land, we're trying to manipulate our hook point, which is about 18 foot behind us. And we're trying to hit a very small piece of steel where the arresting wires are when we come into trap. So to put that into something that you can put your minds to. This piece of paper is where I'm trying to fly my head. I've got to hit it perfect in the front of my face, and I trap. If I get a little bit below here, I go around because I miss the wires. I go a little bit back here, I scare everybody, and if my head hits here, I run into the back of the boat. It's a very small tolerance. Kind of like trying to ride a motorcycle through your front door of your house at about 300 miles an hour and I'll crash. I have a real love-hate relationship. Say again?
We should try that.
Yeah. I have a real love-hate relationship with the boat. I love the simplicity of the day-to-day life. I love the flying around the boat. The hate part comes from being away from the family for long periods of time. That's obviously difficult. And the food is not always as good as it should be, but any sailor that's complaining is probably a happy sailor, so that's good. Top left, that was actually my stateroom on the boat. I shared that space with 3 other officers, so you can see it's a pretty tight space, and that's actually pretty fortunate. The young enlisted that are on the boats, they'll share racks that are half that size, where they can't even roll over from front to back without having to get out of the rack and get back in it, because the distance between the racks is pretty small. Over 100 people do berth in some of those berthings there. So very different living conditions for officers versus enlisted, but it's the way the Navy is. As far as flying around the boats, nothing better than a morning catch shot, nothing worse than a night trap. They're 2 different things to complete, and getting most of the front of the boat going from 0 to about 250 miles an hour in just a couple of feet is quite the exhilarating rush. Love it during the day. As I said again, the nighttime is a very different experience, very dark, and you're staring at a bunch of little lights, and you're hoping to be in the right piece of sky. I am a father. I have 2 sons. Navy life is both great and is difficult as being a family man. I love the opportunities it's given myself and my family. The healthcare alone is worth it. It's fantastic. I've had 2 kids and haven't had to pay a single cent for either one of them being born. With all the hospital stays and everything, they really take care of you and your family very well. And if you ask my wife, she wasn't able to make it today, but she's really loved the opportunity and the people she's met along the way and all the interesting places we've got to live. Fortunately, we really enjoy Woodby Island, and by flying the Growler, I should be able to stay here through the rest of my career and be able to retire out of here. So I think our moving days are hopefully over for the meantime. I've got another 6 years until I can make that decision. But the downside, obviously, is the being away from the family for long periods of time. This year alone, I'm in what they consider a short tour, so I'm not supposed to go out to sea. It's supposed to be a rest period. I've been away from home for more than 5 months and actually leave again on Sunday to go out of town. I'll be back in time for Christmas, so that's always a positive. But most years, you're going to miss a lot of the big holidays and the big life events that happen. There's a joke in the Navy that when it comes to having kids, you'll either be there for the conception or the birth. I missed the birth of my first son while I was deployed. The bottom left was a picture that I took with a screenshot when I was on the boat of my wife giving shortly after birth of my first son. I was there for the second, so I think the postman might be his dad. I'm not exactly sure. Right there. So I often get asked, like, what are the coolest things that you get to do in the jets, and what are, some of the scariest things? There's honestly too many moments to really account for all of the cool things. Some of my favorite memories are actually not in the flying side, it's some of the memories I've had with some of the people over the years. The Navy community, for anyone that's ever served will understand, it's definitely a brotherhood that you have people that you're going to meet and pretty much be lifelong friends with. And just from the shenanigans when you're pulling into a foreign port after being at sea for 45 days, to the long work hours and the slap happiness that you experience as a group after putting in 14+ hour days for 2 weeks straight. Some things that I didn't think that I'd get to do when I was a young little kid dreaming about flying jets. I always envisioned beautiful daytime weather, going out there flying during the day and doing these cool, amazing things. I didn't think about landing at the boat at night. I didn't think about tanking at night. So our jet can air refuel. The top left is a picture that my backseater took as we were getting gas overhead Mosul in Iraq about 2 years ago. Those are through his night vision goggles. I was not on night vision goggles. I didn't see any of that. I saw the black that's on the outside as I was trying to make that join happen and take fuel. Quite a nerve-wracking experience. I think I left with some white knuckles and a lot of sweat. One of my collateral duties when I'm out at sea is I'm a landing signals officer. So Each squadron will handpick a couple pilots who do pretty well behind the boat, and when we're not flying, our job is to talk the guys down to the boat to land. That's been another experience that I didn't think that I would have done, and I absolutely love. The rewarding experience of being the guy that's on the radio, talking to the guy that's having a bad night and is just behind the power curve and is once you get on board, you can come up and have his mid-rats and be done with his flight, and being the smooth voice talking him down all the way to touchdown is it's quite a rewarding experience, and then getting to come back and talk to that guy afterwards and tell him how his pass was. It's been very rewarding on my part. Also, got to shoot missiles. That's pretty cool. The bottom left was a missile shoot that I did out off the coast of California. No whales were harmed in the shooting of that missile, I promise you. They actually had planes out there looking for whales to make sure we don't hit them. So that's some of the highlights of my career so far. So I mentioned that I was a graduate of the weapons school back in the spring. I went through, it's a 3-month program. Top Gun is obviously the movie that everyone's familiar with. Top Gun school itself is for the F-18 series of aircraft. Havoc was the school that I went through. They're under the same roof. They're under the same commanding officer. We train side by side with them. It's just our version of the weapons school course. Very different in the movie. There was no topless volleyball. I was very excited about that, and there wasn't any of it. There was a lot of time studying, however, and a lot of time sitting in briefs and getting to fly some of the best missions of my life. The final events of the weapons school, you go down to Nellis Air Force Base in just outside of Vegas, and you spend a month integrating with the Air Force with the entire arsenal that the Air Force brings, including up to a nuclear level. So it's pretty cool events to go through out there. Some of the events that we were flying, there was over 130 blue aircraft, so friendly aircraft, over 100 enemy aircraft, and over 5,000 people on the ground supporting a single event that the weapons school was putting on to simulate a large-scale war to the best of our ability. Some pretty epic training. The video I'm going to play is our graduation video that they put together. It's a couple minutes long, just kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what a day in the life of an aviator is. Hopefully speak to you all today. I mentioned, I think at the beginning when I was introducing myself, I was actually born and raised in South Africa, so I'm an immigrant to this country. I'm glad I've been in the, I'm glad I had the opportunity to give back as much to this country as it's given to myself and my family. I'm eternally grateful for everything this country has given us. It's really an amazing place to live and work. And thank you for the clubs like this that put it back into the community that I think is what makes this country so special. So thank you guys for everything you do for the local community around you as well. Thanks.
Okay, so we have time for some questions. I'll open it up.
Yes, sir.
When you land on the aircraft carrier, what speed are you when you try to hit that hook?
So it depends on our weights. We'll adjust our approach speed based on our configuration and the weight the jet is currently at. But as a general range, about 120 to 140 knots, which is close to 175 to 200 miles an hour. Sir?
Do you get to, or do you sneak in any aerobatics?
We do aerobatics all the time, actually. It's not the most tactical thing in the world to do, so depending on the mission, we're not going to necessarily go do loops or barrels for no reason. But if we have the time and the gas,
No loops or anything like that?
Yeah, we'll do that. It just depends on if we have the gas available. We're always worried about gas. Our engines burn a lot, and we don't have a whole lot of space to carry gas. So at least a couple times a week, I'll get up there and do some barrels and some loops, go upside down, like that. It's kind of
Just curious, that fun training you were describing where, you know, it really tests your ability, is that something that can be trained, or if someone is airsick, right, from the start, is that a deal breaker? They don't go with that and they're not eligible, or can they be retrained? And my second part of the question is, you mentioned body positions that you can take. Well, aren't you just strapped in your chair? What body positions?
So air sickness can be a deal breaker for naval aviation, but they spend a lot of time in the early days. So when I had the picture of the T6, the little prop aircraft that you first fly. If you're showing symptoms of air sickness then, they will put you through a whole trainer essentially. They got flight physiologists that will work with you. They'll put you on special diets. They'll give you medication. They'll really work with you. It's something that most people within a couple flights will get over. You get used to it pretty quickly. I was lucky. I've never actually gotten sick on the jet, but I have felt not so great every once in a while. Even experienced guys, you know, you go out of the jet for a week or two and then come back and do something very dynamic, depending on how you are hydrated, how you've eaten. They recommend eating bananas because they taste the same way coming up as they go down. And then as far as the body position goes, it's mainly the way you prepare your body. So there's a maneuver they call, it's called kick maneuver. It's the way that you use your, essentially your diaphragm and the way you squeeze muscles in your body to try to force blood up into your head. Because when you're under G, all the blood tries to go down to your feet, and that's when people black out. It's because of lack of blood to the brain. So we wear G suits. They supposedly give you about 2 Gs of tolerance to help out with that. But if you're under high Gs, our jet will get up to 7.5 Gs if is what it's limited to. Emergency situation, I can get more out of the jet if I need it, but for normal day-to-day flights, 7.5 Gs is what you need. And to sustain 7.5 Gs for upwards of 30 seconds or so, you really have to be in the right position and have your body prepped prior to pulling the Gs so that you don't black out.
That's kind of cool. So you can direct your blood to an ear or to your nose.
Not really, just this general area.
The trainer that you fly, it looks to me like it is one really healthy horsepower rig there. It's like the fastest thing with a prop that you could get. Is that kind of true, or is it?
Yeah, it's one of the world's premier trainer right now. The T6 Texan 2, which is the new version that the Navy's taken on, Air Force uses as well. That, and then there's a trainer that the Singaporeans use that's very similar as well. Those are probably the two.
So how fast are they compared to the F-18, for example?
So they're not supersonic. Normal cruising speed, you can get to about 350 knots, which is about 400 miles an hour. So it's pretty quick. You can also get up to 7.5 Gs, fully aerobatic, has ejection seats. The actual inside is very similar to the jets I fly. The stick, the throttle, it's all mimics very well. It's kind of set you up so that you're used to that style of cockpit from the get-go. It's very similar to what a P-51 Mustang would have been from back during World War II time frame. It's a couple hundred horsepower less, but it's got a lot more reach electronics in it to make the flying qualities better.
One more question, actually two quick ones. Have you ever been close to bailing in one, and then what was the cost to get trained for one pilot?
I have never gotten close to bailing, thank goodness. Haven't had the urge yet to try reach for the handle and punch out. That'd be an $85 million mistake if I did. And the cost to train is, for a Growler pilot, somewhere around $3.5 million from start to finish per pilots. And that's just to get through the initial to get them there. And then there's still many years worth of training. We're always training. You never stop. Prior to going on deployments, you spend about a year and a half getting ready to go on deployments, and that's all advanced training down in Fallon, Nevada, which you'll go down there and do. It's pretty good.
Is there a lot of maintenance for the Growlers?
The Growler, any tactical jet has its definitely its fair share of maintenance. Fortunately, it's a newer airframe, so it doesn't require as much as its predecessor, the Prowler, the ES6B that was stationed up here before. So I have a lot less issues with jets breaking down and having to cancel for maintenance issues. But the second you land, they're tearing it apart and doing all kinds of work on it. It's a lot of man hours that go into it daily just to keep those jets flying. But a lot of them are still under warranty. We actually have a lot of civilian contractors from Boeing that are stationed up here in Woodby to work on those jets specifically for any of the advanced stuff. And it's amazing what they can do in the hangar. I just walked in the hangar yesterday and there was a jet that was fully propped up, all its wheels off the ground, and they were doing drop checks where they were lowering the gear. They could take those things almost down to the bare metal. It's pretty impressive.
So last year I was fortunate enough to do an arrested landing and take off on the Nimitz.
Okay.
And they took me over there. So a couple takeaways that I really appreciated, first-hand knowledge on the thing, is one, most of us have been on big ships, being on a cruise ship. The Admiral doesn't even have a window. There's no windows for all those people that are sleeping on. There's 4,500 people on an aircraft here. And they serve 15,000 meals a day, and so it's not. I thought the meals were fine, but what I really took away from it was the dedication of the service people that are there to be in that. Some people go 2 or 3 weeks without even being on the deck, and to be there for 6 months out on a tour is unbelievable. And then the people that stay home. So we have quite a few aviators that work. Their wives, actually, most of them are working for us, but wives and people that are, and for them to be away for 6 months, the aviators being away for 6 months or more during all this trainings, they're here at the home front. It is absolutely amazing. Well, I wanted to really thank you for all that, and it is not pleasurable to be on that ship all that time. I would have gone crazy. So, anyway, thank you for that. The last thing is, they told me that your other officers that are flying rate you guys as you fly in on how good a landing you have and how bad it was or you bumped or whatever. And I just wondering how your teammates do the review.
Yeah, so when I said I was a landing signals officer, there's a group of pilots. You have to be a pilot to do so on your days that you're not flying. There's typically 4 per radio room, so 4 per squadron that are on the boat. And our job is we're on a 4-day rotation where we'll go out there and for every recovery, we go out there and our job is not to grade the pilots, but we are judging them every time. But it's to get them safely aboard the aircraft carrier. But every single landing you do on a carrier is graded. You'll get debriefed by the LSOs after every single pass. We walk all the ready rooms from aft to front, and it's kind of a cool thing. Like you walk in the ready room, the pilots that just landed will come stand in front of you. You'll read them their pass. You'll talk them on things how to improve for next time, or trends that you've seen from them over the last couple of landings that you want them to improve on, or things that maybe they went through a bad phase and they were struggling, and now they're starting to improve. So maybe we can start talking the things that they're doing well, get them in the right mental state. It's a little bit of a psychology game dealing with aviators. We're all A-type macho guys. We like to think that we're the best, but sometimes it's hard hearing the truth that you weren't so good at something. But it's part of what makes us a professional organization is the debrief process. To be able to go back after a flight and talk about and fess up to and own mistakes that you made in that flight so that you're better for next time. And so when the big fight comes, we're ready to tackle it, and we're getting aboard aircraft carriers safely and not having any mishaps, which is always the big thing. Yes, ma'am.
Last one.
I noticed that there was at least one female name on the list during your video. Are there very many women that are training as aviation?
The numbers are increasing. Unfortunately, no. I was actually surprised, well, I'm not surprised, but I would like to have seen more females going through. I'm surprised that the numbers haven't grown more than that they currently are. So I'm an instructor over at 129 where we teach people to go through how to fly the growler from the basics. And every class that comes through, there's at least one or two females that go through. We see more females right now on the NFO side, so the people that's in I just two-seater. The front seat is a pilot, the back seat is a naval flight officer. Their job is to operate the weapon system. Numbers tend to favor the NFOs for the female rates, but there are plenty of good female pilots in our squadron and around the flight line. It's not anything that's uncommon anymore. I'd like to see more of it in the near future.
My son served on the Roosevelt, so he was in the bowels, but steering the ship.
Well.
We have a small token of our appreciation for you, Lieutenant, and hopefully you can use this greatest ink pen in the universe to ink a new deal somewhere.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're out of time, so help break down today, and with that, we are adjourned.